So let's talk a little bit about the present of mobile, what's going on today. There's really three sorts of areas we'll chat about. First, who are the players and how did they make money? This is actually always very important to know in any technological area. Might be completely obvious, but Google, Samsung, and Apple are the three big dogs right now, along with Android and iOS. Strong honorable mention goes to the Kindle Fire tablet and the Firefox phone. Probably Windows Phone also, has some share. BlackBerry is not what it was. Nokia is not what it was. So really, to first short, it's Android and iOS. And as of about a year ago, Y Combinator startup still developed for iOS first, and Apple is still in the lead, but that lead is eroding. And I think that by this time next year, it's probably going to be Android in the lead. And there's a number of reasons for that. If you just look at the trends, Google is gaining ground on almost every single metric. The Samsung-Google combo, Samsung just recently passed Apple in profitability. Google is closing the gap in App Store revenue. They have many more units installed. It's one of these things where today iOS is still on top, but by the time you build your app, Android may start to be, it'll be gaining. It'll be like 60-40 rather than 73-27, probably within a year from now. So that's kind of a little bit of a pain as a situation, because do you build for iOS or do you build for Android? So the answer for this class is you build for neither. You build for mobile HTML5 and you get on base on both platforms. Then you can choose which one you want to build a native app for, and we'll talk about your decision criteria later. So how do these guys make money? You can kind of read this for the details, but the summary is Apple makes their money on hardware sales, Google makes their money on mobile advertising. Neither of them have the App Store as their primary monetization channel. In some ways, that's good for you because it means that they don't have as strong an incentive to make first-party apps that compete with your apps. But right now, mobile hardware is leading that in terms of mobile software, in terms of where the revenue is coming from. That's almost tautological, because obviously the units have to be in people's hands before the software is there. However, it also means that there's enormous room for mobile software. When you think about what mobile is, a good way of thinking about it is that it's cannibalizing all these existing hardware companies, all these existing consumer electronics companies. If they're not building cell phones or tablets or some other mobile device like a Google Glass, they're going to get attacked by a smartphone maker that just bundles their sensor in there. For example, Garmin or Sony were sort of blindsided. Garmin makes GPS units, Sony makes the Walkman and so on. They're blindsided by the fact that their device is now just another sensor or another actuator within this multifunctional smartphone. And here's, one of several diagrams like this on the web that shows, a bunch of different devices, everything from a clock radio to a two-factor authentication dongle, to a walkie-talkie, a camera, camcorder, music player, etc. All these things are bundled into this smartphone. And so on the one hand, your traditional hardware manufacturers, they are all getting consolidated into just these cell phone makers. But on the other hand, as a software developer, first, you've got now all this hardware is just available to you as an API call. And second, you've got hundreds of millions of new people that have these devices in their hands, right? So this is why mobile is really important as a software developer. On top of this, you've also got app stores now where you can monetize on these platforms. So this is a really big deal from the software end of things. And the combination of these things, the just sheer rate of growth of mobile, as well as how it turns everything into a software game, really should constrain your business strategy. If you're doing a startup today, you want to think once, twice, three times about how you can have a mobile app as the very first thing that you build for. This should be at the core of your platform. This should be the core of your development strategy, if at all possible. I mean, don't force it, but if there's any way that you can vector your business around to have a mobile app first, this will be an advantage for you because it will invalidate any incumbents' assumptions. If they haven't built it for mobile on day one, it's just not going to be as useful. And so, the reason this think mobile constraint is good is it'll start you, thinking in the direction of things that will give you some competitive advantage.